What if one unexpected moment changed the direction of your life? When Suzie Betts discovered a breast lump, she uncovered an overlooked issue affecting women and girls in sport. And then one question led to another. In part 1, Suzie shares the personal story behind Boob Protect and why she believes this is something every active woman should know about. Suzie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Suzie, I've been so interested in hearing your story and just the motivation behind it all and how your life has changed since you had that conversation in a doctor's office. But before we even get to that, I just wanted to know, before all of that, before that moment when things changed, your career trajectory changed, everything changed, what were you doing before that?
So,
what did life look like?
Life looked like, for me, being a mother of 3 children, Jasmine, who's now 22, Ned, who's just turned 21, and Maggie, who's 18, but clearly younger at the time. And I have a background in PR and events, but I hadn't been doing that since the kids were born because you sort of can't do those things having a family. I was being really a stay-at-home mum. I tried to dabble in things here and there in part-time capacities, but as you know, our era, we don't do anything in part-time. So we take it home, we think about it, we're all involved, so it didn't really work. So I was being a stay-at-home mum, basically being an Uber driver and slave.
Yeah, a cook, a cleaner, an Uber driver.
Yeah, all of the
doing the
above.
work.
But I loved it too.
Yeah.
I loved going, I loved kids' sport, but, we were psycho in those days. You know what it's like. You're just driving everywhere. You don't know if you're Arthur or Martha. The good thing about COVID was instead of waking up going, okay, where do I need to be this morning? We knew we didn't have to be anywhere. The only good thing.
Oh, I'm with you. I loved it. I actually loved that. It's kind of like I took a load off, didn't it? Because it was like there's one less job I have to do now.
Well, we had, Jasmine was rowing. My husband was coaching her basketball as well, which was like a 9:30 game on a Tuesday. Ned's was a swimmer. Maggie was doing her thing. So we were waking up at 5:30 in the morning not knowing who was driving who, where, what, how, why we were going to basketball at 9:30 at night. And then we just went, we can reevaluate.
Yeah, and you would be like us where with 3, there's only 2 of you. So
Yeah.
logistically, there's always a challenge somewhere in there.
Absolutely. You're relying on someone to help with one child. But I've got a husband in real estate, so Saturday sport was me. So getting them somewhere, trying to get them to somewhere else. I don't even know how I did it. But I
No.
did.
Thank God those days are past.
They are.
Because
And they go so quickly. That's what I tell people.
They
When
do.
people have got kids in year 7 or 8 and struggling with friendships, I'm like, it goes like that.
It does. 18 summers and then it's done. And
Yeah.
they fly. So
Yeah, exactly.
talk us through what happened, what changed all of this for you.
So I can't remember where I was or anything like that, but I did find a lump in my right breast, and I went to my doctor, who then put me onto a breast cancer surgeon who I knew about. Her name's Dr. Chantel Thornton, who I'd seen her before, and if I needed to go to any specialist, it was only going to be her. And what I found in my right breast, she also found in my left breast. But what happened first was she said to me, did you play sport? And I was like, yeah, I did. She goes, well, do you ever remember receiving a trauma? And I was like, no, I don't. She said, well, what can happen is that you can receive a whack, it could be an elbow, a foot, a ball, who knows, to the breast that can present itself then or later in life. And that presents as fat necrosis, and fat necrosis mimic breast cancer cells. So you don't know you have it till you actually have surgery. It doesn't show up in imaging and it doesn't show up in biopsies either. So I was like, yeah, I don't remember getting a whack to the boobs, whatever. So then she sent me for, I must have gone, I clearly obviously went for ultrasound and mammograms to find out that, yes, I had the lumps, and then a biopsy was required, and that was the worst trauma of my life because they meant to put a local in. Well, the local didn't work, and it was like I was actually shot in my left breast, and it was so painful, and I was black and green, and I was actually doing, maybe it was the Mother's Day function at Caulfield Grammar. I was on the committee then at the time, and I went to pick up some things afterwards at a friend's husband's work, and if he could see what was in my brain, it was like my hair was like an afro. I was like, I have just had the worst experience of my life. It didn't work. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, whatever happened then turned out I needed surgery, and I had lumps removed in both breasts and found out that they were actually fat necrosis. So I was never stressed about it. I never thought for 1 minute I had breast cancer. I don't have it in the family. I just didn't think it. And I was really more along the lines of what she told me about the trauma. So in the meantime, talking to my mum, who had been ex-head of Melbourne University Physiotherapy School, and she's an academic, and she's like, this is really interesting. I'm going to see what evidence and research has been done so far. And there had been none in Australia. Now, Jasmine and Maggie, my daughters, were both playing AFL and basketball, and I knew that they were getting, more impact to the breasts, because when I asked them, they're like, stupid question, of course we get hit in the boobs.
Yeah. And
we found out that really 1 in 4 girls through the college system in the US were obtaining an injury. And that was a lot. That was in 2019. And, they weren't playing AFLW or, women's AFL. And it really got me thinking, what protection was there, because my surgeon had said if you were protected, we wouldn't be having this question, we wouldn't be going through this. So then I looked at what was available on the market, and everything was sort of a garment. It was a garment that had some padding in it. It might have been a rugby one that had shoulders in it and maybe a sternum guard of sorts. There were some that had been designed that were like circles on the boobs of a foam. But the research also pointed out that compression is not what you want for your breasts for long-term breast health. So we're like, okay, so there's something available, but it's really not doing anything except negating a tiny bit of the force impact. So then we also found out that some research had been done in the 90s, and it had been a biomechanics professor who had done the research into 4 different materials as to what was the best to absorb force impact in the breast, and it turned out to be a material, polyethylene, which is basically, people go, well, that's plastic. Well, it's not really, because it actually disperses the force impact. So once you have them on your breast and you receive an impact, you actually can't feel anything. So it's dispersing the impact. So we were like, right, we know what we need. That's what we're going to work with, because it's light, because it can be mouldable to breast shape. It will basically encapsulate the breasts in their natural, how they should be. And we can, put them in a bra. We don't want to add layers on. That was what was also we were finding when we talked to athletes. The garments were just adding more on. And at the time, the professional AFLW girls were actually playing in the summer. So they might be running 10Ks in a 40-degree day, which the guys weren't doing. And it was just adding another dimension. They were restrictive. You couldn't have any ounce of meat on you, because it had to go somewhere, whether it came out the sleeves or things like that. So then we worked with physios, the surgeons, athletes, to work out what we really needed. And we worked out that it was going to be inserts, something that was really adaptable, that you chuck in, like your mouth guard, like your shin guard, when you go out to, go on the field. And when we did produce them finally, Jasmine, for example, was playing Caulfield Grammar first footy. She would, chuck them out on the way, in, like she did her mouth guard. She's that type of girl. Whereas Maggie, my youngest, would wear them from home to the match, then home, in them. And if she ever forgot them, like she did at school footy, she would tell me exactly how many times she got hit in her boobs. I got 20 times in that one, blah, 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 blah. So that's how it started initially. I've talked maybe a bit too long, so you might want to ask a question.
No, it's perfect, Suzie. So what sport did you play where you must have acquired these knocks?
Well, interestingly, not impact. I played netball and tennis. So who the hell knows?
Wow. I didn't play an impact sport either. I played tennis as well, but I tell you what, you remember getting hit, don't you? And maybe, I don't know, if it wasn't a sport, it could have been even just knocked or...
I don't remember getting hit in the boobs ever, but I did have a brother who probably threw cricket balls at me. So I don't know, but I do remember playing in a Caulfield Grammar tennis tournament, and one mum aimed at me on the net the whole time, and she finally got me in the thigh, and I had a ball that mark in that thigh. I've never liked her since, by the way.
Fair enough.
And I had it like a ball mark, like on my left thigh for a very, very long time. So,
Yes.
things happen and we're pretty much taught. I mean, the girls, playing these contact sports that were once male sports, we're taught to ignore it.
Yep.
In soccer, for example, a lot of them won't chest the ball. They're avoiding
Oh,
it
yeah,
because they're
right.
breasts. But then they get a kick to the back of the, shin and to the calf and they roll on the ground like the boys do.
Yeah.
But they're avoiding what actually really does hurt, which is the breasts.
It's quite interesting that I reckon they've had cups in cricket for a very long time. So they're protecting their bits, like, and yet it's just been such an oversight.
They've always worn cups. There's no guy who would go on a cricket pitch without one, and that's made of the same plastic as Lego. So it cracks, it sweats.
Yeah.
There's two sizes. It's highly uncomfortable, but there is no way they're not going to wear it. I actually was watching Australia versus England over summer, and the
Yep.
captain walked onto the pitch he was going to bat. He readjusted that box 25 times before he turned around to the
Yeah.
crease.
Yeah,
So he
right.
was not going to do anything, and everyone waited till he adjusted that at least 25 times.
I wonder if, given you've done all this research and you know how impractical that material is, have you thought about going into the cup area as well?
Look, down the track, I mean, when I originally started, it was to go into all protective. I was originally Boob Armour, had a problem with a ginormous American company who made me change my name. So that changed a lot of stuff along the
Is that
way
when
as
you
well.
became Boob Protect?
Yes.
Now, why? What was that about? What happened there?
So that was a trademark issue. Under Armour didn't like that I was using the word armour.
But, it's not, they don't own that word.
Well, to them they do. So we had to change our name. A long, expensive process.
Oh, I bet. I bet. Especially with, I get it, with all the branding and merch, everything you've done is would have been labelled. So,
That's right, and
um,
it's just about the word. I mean, look, it was easy, and we sped it up. It was easy to
that's okay.
actually do because for the overseas market, we couldn't progress without it, so we just changed, as quick as we could. Australia, we've had longer to adapt.
So I know you are international and obviously in the American market. Where now also does Boob Protect get sold? Like, what other markets in the world are
So
using
it's
it?
really interesting. Most of our people who wear breast protection or our breast protection, we've got about 4,500 people wearing it globally, and they came to us. So they found us.
Yeah.
We've never really advertised because we don't sort of fit anywhere. When you're creating a new category,
Yeah.
we don't fit anywhere. So it's like you can't utilise all those other, we're hopping on the back of the other people who do the breast protection.
Yes.
There are more companies doing it, and thank God they are, but they're in different ways doing it. As I said, it's more garments, and we're probably one of the only companies that's a female, producing this. So it's been guys doing it because they see a niche for it, but we're doing it because we've lived the experience. We're doing it because we've got breasts. That's why we've got two inserts, because you and I both know most breasts aren't the same size and one's normally higher than the other. So you have to adapt to that. And that's why we want them to put them in a bra. Otherwise, if you've got padding in a garment, they might be above your boobs or below your boobs. And, they're T-shirt sizes, not boob sizes. So we are also doing trials with the military. So the military have worked out that, we've worked out and everyone's worked out that body armour, which they have to wear as soon as they're on duty, is causing friction, abrasions, compression to female soldiers wearing body armour, which they do as soon as they go on duty. That could be just on the beat, the police too. So which is exciting. We're doing trials to obviously alleviate that problem between the armour and the breasts.
So if you put the insert into a bra and then the armour still goes on, that's still going to have that compression thing, but does it just disperse the pressure? Is that, because otherwise it's extra distance sort of thing?
So the armour is a one size fits all at the moment. It's a flat plate that men and women wear. So it's not fitting properly anyway. So wherever their pressure points are is where it's sitting. And it does a lot of pinching to the sides too. So our inserts go around and hopefully alleviate that. There is a company that are doing a female breast plate, which is amazing because we need it in different sizes and stuff, but you've still got that movement issue where, you're going one way, the plate's going the other. So it's a work in progress, but it's definitely something that's been forgotten, like in sport as well. Females wearing female football boots, female kit, and that's changed, but it's slow.
Yeah, and look, even I can see problematically that if they were to adjust, then they're going to have different size armor. Do you know what I mean? Or different size plates. So it's just, and then that's just a production issue for them as well. Like, I can see the challenges. So your solution would cater for all of that. Now, this was a big jump. You went from marketing and being a stay-home parent, which is, I get it, multitasking at its finest. But how hard was it transitioning into this business mentality and running a business? And I know you've had some challenges, but can you talk us through what that was like?
So I'm a bit like a dog with a bone. When I start thinking about something, I can't stop. So I am like a research maniac, and I was going to find a solution no matter what. I probably surprised myself in a way that I thought people would just understand it and go, wow, we've needed this for so long. But the biggest challenge has probably been people accepting that it is actually a problem. There is, immediate and long-term effects to breast injury, and then making a business out of that. Because I'll have people go, wow, I love what you're doing. Oh, but I don't need that. And I'm like, well, you do. Or, wow, I love that, but my daughter doesn't have big boobs. I'm like, it doesn't matter the size of your boobs. It's breast tissue. You can obtain an injury as a flat-chested girl that it presents itself as deformity when your boobs grow. So, and asymmetry. So there's a lot going on, but we're bootstrapped. I don't have investors. It's been learning and teaching myself the whole way. So website design, I suppose keeping books, paying accountants, the little things to, I go, oh, what's that bill for? Oh, that's just a tiny little app that does something on your website that you didn't even know you paid for. Or, I suppose the PR and the marketing side were the easy bits for me. The shipping, the freight, the manufacturing, the different, taxes and duties depending on countries. That's all been me trying to teach myself. That was like, in the UK, was like a mind-blowing experience because no one could tell me the right answer. And, things like CE certification, which you need in EU and the UK, but in Australia we don't have it like that. So, people giving you different information. It's just, every day, and keeping the motivation, which has been really, really difficult because, you win some, you lose a lot. I've had sponsorships along the way that have cost me money and there's been no real return. You don't get the support. So it's been a big challenge, and I sleep it, I dream it, I try not to talk about it because I find talking about myself and things like that really boring. So people ask me questions, I'll go, yeah, whatever, blah, 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 but let's move on. Let's talk about you because I don't actually want to live it every day as such, if that makes sense, through every conversation. But we've won some amazing awards, but they also haven't reflected in sales either. So, last year I won ISPO Brand New in Munich, which is the biggest sports fair in the world, and I won the brand new product out of 120 new companies.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it was really fun, and I loved Munich. But yeah, it's definitely challenging. Definitely challenging.
So, how do you keep going? How do you keep yourself motivated?
I like to pat the animals. I'll go. Yeah. Thank God with my children away, I do have animals. I do a lot of vacuuming because I, can turn myself off with my Dyson and just vacuum and then empty the vacuum into the bin and look how the cat hair's gone in. I need to sort of step back and then I can remotivate. Like, being away at the moment, which we are, helps me switch off for a minute and, reprogram myself. Because I do need to do that. Yep. I like to keep fit and, go for walks and things like that, but it is hard and you need some good wins to keep motivated.
Absolutely. This might be something that for you resonates as well. I just interviewed Vithia, who's she started her own fire investigation unit, first in the world for a woman of colour. And because anyone who's running their own business struggles, I think, with motivation at some stage. She does this thing where on her phone, she writes down every little win, all the little wins she has. Because she says she gets in those moments where she's like, this is really hard. And you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm making progress, and those things take a step back. But then she looks at the wins and she goes, you know what? Look how far I've come. I am making progress. This is working for me. And it's something I'm like, I reckon I need to do that just to remind myself that things are happening, and that, the difference you are making, because you are making such a difference, and the product you've come up with was such a gap in the market and so necessary. So I don't know. I feel like it is hard to stay motivated, and I think that mental talk sometimes is really challenging. Do you go through that?
Oh, absolutely. I've got a crazy brain. My brain, and being the old lady that I am now with the menopause, wake up in the night, doom, doom, the world is ending and everything's ending and I'm shutting the door and this is it and it's over. And, read the media every day. Now, there's a company going under every day, and they might have been one, like there's a sports brand that I actually hadn't heard of, an Aussie one, who had a $50 million turnover and now they're closing their doors. So, especially being an entrepreneur in this country, as with what we've just been presented with from the government, doesn't look good for us.
Well, it's competitive,
pretty
right?
hard. But the wins, yes, you've got to remember that. And I do have to remember that I did it on my own. And I've done every step I've done it. Do you know what I mean? But but it's not good enough for me. So I'll keep going.
And, you keep striving, of course. So what else have you learned about yourself in this process?
Well, I suppose I've learnt that I'm resilient in things like that. I think one of the things I never loved, and I was really bad at school, was public speaking, and now I really like it. And I think the problem was you were given a topic that I never felt I'd researched enough. I know this inside out. So this is my baby. I could talk about it till the cows come home. So that's something I probably never thought young Suzie ever would be able to do. Get up and, I went and presented I made it as a top 10 finalist for a venture capitalist firm in the US. How many years ago was that? Maybe, let's say 3 or 4. And I had to go and pitch to 100 investors in a stadium in St. Louis. And I was first up, and I'd never done a pitch in my life. And I had to have slides. I had to have, all these things. And I'd done a practice the day before, and I really was bad. And I got up in the middle of the night and talked in the mirror in the bathroom and rewrote a few things, because I had my daughter Jasmine with me in a bed, so I had to go into the bathroom. And then the next day, before I went on, they said to me, by the way, one of the judges is from the company that basically wants you to close down. They're not going to judge you, but they're going to sit in on your pitch. And if I had my wits about me, I would have said they should actually leave, because they don't want to make me, but they're going to listen to what I say. They want to close me down.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I should have, but I didn't. And I did. So there was top 5, and I didn't make the top 5. I apparently made the top 6, but the others were very, very, very established businesses, and most of them, and they were all men. Actually, they were all men. Yeah.
Oh, it's good to see that that's changing.
Yes.
So obviously you've learnt a lot and your skills have developed in so many ways. You mentioned young Suzie. I would love to know, when you were little, what did you think you wanted to be? What was your dreams, and is this somewhere you thought you'd end up?
No, gosh, no. I wouldn't have even dreamt. I mean, in the 70s and 80s, I can't even remember. What did I... Oh, I got into business, but I was never interested. I was a really good student till I met boys, and then that all went out the window.
You sound so similar.
And then year 12, I really didn't want to do any study. I just wanted to go to the closest party there was. But I sort of...
When you were really little?
Really little. I was quite creative, but Mum sort of led me down a path of not creative. My sister was very, very creative, my older sister, so she was sort of allowed to do that. I probably wanted to be a tennis player for a minute there. I would have loved to have been a vet because I love animals, but I also wouldn't want to be a vet because I don't want to do anything to harm them. Yeah. And I know, vets struggle with a lot of mental health. It's a big, big job. I don't really know what little Suzie wanted to be.
Yeah.
I don't think I thought that far ahead. I probably thought I'd just get married and be a housewife.
yeah. We can tick that too. So that's
Yes,
good.
yes, yes. But I did, I suppose I probably wanted to travel and things like that, which I did a lot of, in my 20s, lived over in Italy for a long time. And yeah, I don't know. I know I was always really confused with what I really did want to be. I've said that even into my 40s. I still haven't worked out what I want to be.
So the skills that you use now in being an entrepreneur and running this business, are they skills that you've developed over time and that you've had to learn? Or do you think you've always had these skills and now they've just found a place and how you
I
can use
think
these?
I've always been really interested in business and how it works. So I don't think I had those skills. Absolutely not. I think majority of them I've learnt along the way, but by being interested in them. And I suppose technology's helped as well. Now that we've got AI, that's been such a game changer, even with research. I mean, obviously you have to check it, but it just has been, I suppose, helping with time time was. I mean, even early on, I was spending days doing research. I built my own database by myself. Like I was going to websites
Oh, yeah.
and building that. Like I built a database of 6,000 contacts of sporting clubs that I was going to approach. I did a lot of it in
Wow. And now,
COVID 'cause we were all stuck.
yeah. Wow, that's incredible. It was so time consuming, wasn't it? And now it's like, build this for me, find this for me. It's such a time saver. I would agree 100%. Thank you for joining me for part 1. If this conversation made you think differently, I'd love you to subscribe and share it with someone who might need to hear it too. Join me for part 2, where Suzie shares some of the challenges she's had to face along the way building her company Boob Protect, advice for others starting out, and her greatest fear. More is possible than you think. It begins with one question: what if? Until next time, keep asking.